Hey, what's up everyone and welcome to another very exciting video. I'm Game Mars and today we're talking about my Nintendo 64 buying guide. But before we start, for the love of all that is holy, please smash that like and subscribe button, because that would be helping me a lot. Now, the Nintendo 64 is a classic console. Everyone who's crossed paths with it has epic nostalgia for it, even the Sony fanboys. So where does one start when building a Nintendo 64 collection? First of all, you're going to need to get yourself a Nintendo 64. Now, you can get them modded with HDMI inputs. I haven't quite done that. I've just got my basic Nintendo 64 setup attached to my CRT TV. The next thing you'll need are some essential accessories. This is a Nintendo 64 controller. You can get them in a million different colors. They were awesome. If you ignore this whole three-handle controller situation we had going on. The 90s was a crazy time, guys. Now, if you want to get an old school Nintendo 64 controller, you're going to want to get it refurbished, because these analog sticks weren't the most durable of things. Now, if you never grew up with Nintendo 64, this may be a better option for you. This is Retro Fighter's Retro Brawler controller for the Nintendo 64, and as you can see, it looks like a normal controller. There's none of this three-handle BS going on. Now, I use this to play through Zelda Ocarina of Time, and I thought it was a beautiful substitute for the Nintendo 64 controller. It worked really well. Now, Retro Fighters went on to make more controllers for the Nintendo 64. This one's the wireless controller. It's awesome. I love it. This is how I play my Nintendo 64 games. Now that we're talking about controllers, the next thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to open up this hatch. Now, in my Nintendo 64, I've already got the expansion pack installed. They originally came with these ones. Now, you see, the one that came with Nintendo 64 only had 4 megabytes of RAM. The expansion pack will expand that to a whopping 8 megabytes of RAM. I know it doesn't sound like much, but this will allow you to access the whole Nintendo 64 library. There are some must-have games that cannot be played without the expansion pack. In my opinion, that makes the expansion pack the most necessary accessory that you need to get for your Nintendo 64. Now, I know haptic feedback and HD rumble are a thing in this day and age. With the Nintendo 64 controller, there was no rumble. Enter the rumble pack. Again, this is my childhood rumble pack, and I drew all over it, and you know what? I've made some mistakes in my life. I actually haven't used this in a very long time, so I actually wouldn't recommend it, but if rumble is important to you, go for it. You're going to need a rumble pack. Next on the list is the controller pack. Now, some games will require you to use this to save your games. I mostly used it for Diddy Kong Racing to save my ghosts, but to be honest, this is another accessory that I believe that you can go without. Now, the Nintendo 64 accessory that I use the most next to the expansion pack is the controller pack. This was very important for me to bring my Pokemon into Pokemon Stadium. This pretty much lives here. I mean, that just shows you how much I like to play Pokemon. It's a very useful accessory for those of us who are Pokemon fans. And as a matter of fact, the other game I use it for is Mario Tennis. I had Mario Tennis on the Game Boy Color, and that was an amazing RPG. And you could transfer your character over to the game that was Mario Tennis on the Nintendo 64. My character was so OP, nobody could beat me. I mean, it was totally cheating. But hey, I was a child. I didn't care. Now, the Nintendo 64 was mostly known for its 3D platformers. So let's just get that little topic out of the way first. So you got Mario 64, Zelda Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, Donkey Kong 64, Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie are all great games you can buy to start your Nintendo 64 collection. But as an adult, it would be completely irresponsible of me not to say that you shouldn't start your collection with Conkers Bad Fur Day. This is the best, the funniest, the most crudest 3D platformer of all time. So if you start anywhere with 3D platformers on the Nintendo 64, go with Conkers Bad Fur Day. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but I'm a massive Pokemon fan, so let's just get the Pokemon games out of the way. You got Pokemon Snap. This is a game that can be beaten in less than a day. It actually got my start into photography, which turned out to be a lifelong passion of mine. And we got Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2. If you are going to get into the Pokemon Stadium games, please get yourself a controller pack, get yourself the OG Pokemon games, so you can build up a team to compete in the Pokemon Stadium games.
Wow, rock slide! Drill no weakness!
And if you're only going to get one Stadium game, just get Pokemon Stadium 2. Just take it from me, this is just the best way to experience Pokemon from generations 1 and 2. The next game you're going to have to track down for your Nintendo 64 collection is LylatWars. I know in other places of the world it was called Starfox 64, but in Australia it was called LylatWars. There's no real category for this game, it's a spaceship shooter. So there were some Star Wars games where you were flying around in a spaceship shooting at things at the time, but I believe LylatWars was the best game of its kind.
We're entering Corneria City now.
And it totally holds up today. Now, I know everyone who has a Nintendo 64 collection should have Goldeneye 64. This is my favorite first-person shooter of all time to this very day. But you know what? Everyone talks about it and everybody recommends it on the Nintendo 64 buying guide. I'm going to be different and recommend its sequel, The World Is Not Enough.
Your last chance. Give me a name. You still threaten me, even without your weapon?
This one wasn't made by Rare, it was made by EA, but they pretty much copied what Rare did with Goldeneye and tried to do it with their own flair and twist. While we are on the topic of first-person shooters, it would be incredibly irresponsible of me not to mention Perfect Dark. You see, this one was actually made by Rare. This is the true spiritual successor to Goldeneye 64. You see, they've gone with a female James Bond. And you know what? Nobody had an issue with it. Could you imagine if we got a female James Bond? People would absolutely lose it.
Waiting for!
Now, if you don't want those mainstream first-person shooters in your life, the Nintendo 64 also had Doom 64, which was a fun twist on the PC first-person shooter. And we've also got two Turok games, Duke Nukem and Quake. Now, third-person shooters were hard to find on the Nintendo 64, but I've been playing Winback on the Nintendo Switch, and I cannot believe how far ahead of its time it is. It totally deserves a spot in your Nintendo 64 collection. Definitely check it out if Resident Evil 4 blew your mind, because this game uses a very similar shooting mechanism. However, the control pack will be required if you wish to play Winback. Alright, next up, we're going to talk about some sports games. Snowboarding games were incredibly popular in this day and age. 1080 snowboarding was the reason that the Nintendo 64 fanboys were smarter than the Sony fanboys. We had 1080 snowboarding. Next up, you know me. I love me some soccer. Now, I've personally got FIFA World Cup 98.
It's there! A fantastic goal! Thundered past the keeper.
It was the first World Cup I ever watched. It was the first time I cheered on Chile. I was up every day at 3 AM in the morning as a child watching Chile draw 4 times. And then eventually losing to Brazil, which I never got over. I hate that Brazilian soccer team to this very day. However, I always thought that International Superstar Soccer was a better soccer game for Nintendo 64. The only problem I had with it is that they didn't have the naming rights for the players, which kind of drove me insane. Now, American sports were never my thing, but you can get your Madden and your baseball games. But for me, when it comes to American sports, basketball is my jam. This is NBA Hang Time, and it very much follows the formula of NBA Jam. The thing that I love about this game is that on the Chicago Bulls roster, you've got Scottie Pippen, you've got Dennis Rodman, and you've got Kukoc in the list as well.
Rodman. Hold up. Nicely done.
So having Pippen, Rodman, and Kukoc as playable characters when you select the Chicago Bulls, really hits a spot, guys. What can I say? I'm just a sucker for arcadey basketball games. Oh yeah, and there are even NHL games on this thing. Wrestling games were also very popular in this day and age. Every time I see a Nintendo 64 list, I always see WWF No Mercy. I've got WCW vs NWO Revenge. And the reason I have that is because Sting is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. And that's why this is my favorite wrestling game. Now, if you need a tennis game, you got to get Mario Tennis.
Match point. Game, set, and match.
My friends and I played this a lot growing up. It was definitely one of our go-to party games. Now, let's talk about racing games. Look, everyone recommends Mario Kart, so I'm just going to gloss over that. Diddy Kong Racing was different, and that's why I always liked it better. You've got a selection of vehicles to choose from when you play through certain levels. And that's why I believed it to be a superior game. Now, I'm not saying Mario Kart is dull. I'm just saying it's a bit cliche to mention Mario Kart in a Nintendo 64 collection. Now, we've also got Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. This is an amazing futuristic racer. I can't recommend it enough. It is a bit difficult though. Now, my favorite kart racing franchise on the Nintendo platform is actually F-Zero. This is F-Zero X for the Nintendo 64. If you get any kart racer, get this one. It's a futuristic kart racer and it's effing awesome. But again, it's a bit on the difficult side. If futuristic racing games aren't for you, you've got the world of F1 World Grand Prix. And we've also got Cruisin' USA. Now let's talk about fighting games. Let's just get the OG Super Smash Bros. Out of the way. I remember the day I got this, I played it with my friend Rasta. We played it for hours and we had a lot of fun. I was actually the first of my friends to get this game, and it was my responsibility to bring it to every single party I went to. Now, there are also some more adult fighting games on this system. Now, you've got a Mortal Kombat game on Nintendo 64, but it's not the best Mortal Kombat game you can play. Now, this is Killer Instinct. Again, it's not the best Killer Instinct game you can play. I believe there to be better versions. Now, you've also got Clayfighter 63 and 1/3.
Wow, Nelly! Call me Jim.
Now, Clayfighter 63 and 1/3 is a fun fighting game that you can play on the system. But my personal favorite fighting game on Nintendo 64 will always be Fighter's Destiny.
Ready. Fight. Careful. Good going. 3 points won.
This was a very unique fighting game, and it really filled a hole in the Nintendo 64's market. The first time I saw the graphics in this game, I actually thought, wow, graphics cannot get better than this. I genuinely believed that this was it. By the next generation, games would be actually realistic. And all I can say about that is I was wrong. And that's it. That's my Nintendo 64 buying guide. Let me know if you think I missed anything in the comment section below. And please, for the love of all that is holy, smash that like and subscribe. Anyways, that's it from me. See ya.